Hey y'all, it's Kim. So, continuing on this spiral of Biden, anyway, I've been finding all these articles about him in like the Wall Street Journal, and I'm pretty sure they're left leaning, but whatever. It says Biden exits battling for his legacy and believing he could have won. So, I'm sure y'all have heard this. I don't remember where else I heard this, but it supposedly said that he thought he could win against Trump in this election after everything that happened, with the coup with the Democrat Party and the Democrat leaders and everything else. But as far as I'm concerned, his legacy's like in the toilet. I mean, with the border crisis and people still coming in, the commuting sentences for people that by a jury of their peers or even a judge somewhere said they should be put to death for their crimes. Inflation, everything else. The classified documents thing, like I said yesterday, they said he was too incompetent to stand trial, but, he was competent enough to be president, really. And they thought they were going to get another 4 years out of him until the debate stage, which we discussed yesterday. Anyway, it said Biden exits battling for his legacy of believing he could have won. And remember, with the confidential or classified documents thing, he was taking documents from the skiff, taking them home, and also he had a ghostwriter writing his book. I don't even know the name of the book, and I really don't even care at this point because thank God he's leaving. But remember, he had documents in his garage. I think he had documents at some school somewhere, like a college. I don't even know where. Don't even care at this point because it's like this dude's gone. But these are things that have been reported. You can go look it up yourself. Anyway, it says the 82-year-old president is spending his final weeks in office telling war stories and facing criticism that he inadvertently ushered in second Trump presidency. Yeah, because people were tired of the woke stuff. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody wanted the woke agenda. I mean, within weeks, they had a video of the guy that I don't even know who he was, what his position was, but he had on like a skirt and fingernails. The guy that was stealing women's underwear or clothing from luggage or something at an airport. I mean, just all this weird woke nonsense. And yeah, his legacy's in the tray, in the drink, we'll call it. It's gone. All these weird things that they allowed in, the inflation, the border crisis, like I said, people were done with it. Let's see. So it says the beginning of the end of Joe Biden's political life was off to a very slow start. The Monday speeches at the Democratic National Convention in August had run over their allotted time, delaying Biden's swan song address to delegates. I think he didn't go on until almost 11 o'clock. So people were kind of like, we're done. Anyway, organizers rushed to speech or speed things up. A video highlighting his 50-year career in politics was scrapped. Wow. When the country's oldest president finally took the stage in Chicago at 10:27 p.m. Okay, so almost 10:30, the crowd erupted with chants of "We love Joe." For 50 minutes, Biden extolled his administration's accomplishments and touted the qualifications of Vice President Kamala Harris, who later that week would accept the nomination that once belonged to Joe. Which, remember, she didn't go through a primary process. She was not vetted in the way that you're supposed to be. They installed her like we believe that they installed Joe. So whatever, take it, make of it whatever you wish. I don't care. These people are not in the office. It says towards the end of the speech, Biden quoted a Gene Shear song, the American anthem. The work and prayers of centuries have brought us to this day, the president recited. What shall our legacy be? Oh, Lord. And Biden tripped over the keyword legacy. It was a fitting start to Biden's final public chapter, replete with poor timing, awkward execution, and an imperfect crafting of his own legacy. When Biden later jetted off to regroup at the 8,000-acre estate of his friend and donor, Joan Kiani, I guess. Anyway, outside of Santa Barbara, California, he was already grappling with the consequences of the choice he made to give up on reelection. And thank God he did. And thank God Kamala Harris lost. I'm just going to say it and I don't care. I've heard some nasty things just this week. Uh, People like Don Lemon. Anyway, whatever. If he ran, he really thought he was going to win, said Kiani, a medical technology entrepreneur. By not running, he was worried Trump would win. He just didn't want to win at any cost. Wait, he just didn't want to win at any cost. Whatever that means. That doesn't sound right, but whatever. He just didn't want to win at any cost. Whatever. Either way, they installed Kamala and she lost miserably. Let's see. Indeed, a look at Biden's final months in office reveals a White House toggling between nostalgia and what ifs. This report on the end of Biden's presidency is based on interviews with more than 30 people, including close associates, Democratic allies, and those who have spent time with the president in recent weeks. Remember yesterday, they had come out and said that Biden was basically too old and they had to cut meetings short and stuff like that. So the writing was on the wall, and there was no way that they were going to let him carry the Democrat Party again, especially with all the bad decisions that were made. Afghanistan, that was another thing I should have mentioned. But yes, those were some of the decisions he's made in the 4 years that he's been in office that were detrimental. It says, on one hand, Biden is an 82-year-old lion in winter who fills the public and private meetings with war stories from a long career and reminders of his achievements. He seeks to burnish his legacy, infusing even the most rudimentary of White House events with a retrospective look at his career. But even if he had this stellar career, like the 50 whatever years in Senate or even the vice presidency, the last 4 years have been a disaster for America. Let's just be real. That 4 years does not, compare to anything he might have done before, but I haven't really heard of that greatest career, and especially now that all the corruption stuff is going to be squashed because he pardoned his son and nobody's ever going to see the light of day other than what Jim Jordan and James, what's his name, Jamie Comer came up with. So anyway, let's see. It says that he also thinks he could have won the 2024 election. According to people familiar with Biden's thinking, Biden doesn't see that as a critique of Harris's campaign. These people say he has told people he believes that as the man who stopped Donald Trump in 2020, he could have done it again. Some close advisors have argued he would have mobilized white working class voters and point turnout in his victory in 2020 that bested Hillary Clinton's in 2016 and Harris's in 2024. Now he is troubled by the fact that Trump will replace him in the Oval Office, and thank God for that. As a result of Harris's loss, he has tried to thread legislative wins like the CHIPS Act, which offer billions of dollars to attract advanced microprocessor manufacturing to U.S. shores, into the American economy in ways that would be difficult for Trump to unwind. He was locked in for federal money for clean energy products or projects and is pushing for a deal to release hostages and end the fight in Gaza. He's been working hard, finishing things up, getting things out the door, said Senator Chris Coons from Delaware, I guess. In the near term, no post-election decision is likely to cloud his legacy more than the pardon he granted his son, Hunter Biden, for federal tax and gun charges. Because if anybody else had faked tax returns or not paid taxes, our butts would be in jail. Gun charges. If you lied on a federal form, you'd be in jail. He pardons his son, so then it stops them from investigating anything because he did what, an 11-year pardon from the time he was vice president. Yeah, okay, we would be in jail, just know that. But because daddy's in the office right now, he's pardoned his own son. Anyway, it says polls show a majority of Americans disapprove of the move. Yes, definitely, because nobody else gets that leniency. No, you're paying fines, you're on probation after you've gone to jail for however long. Yeah, prominent Democrats called it a hypocritical choice that made it harder to decry Trump's mixing of politics and personal favors, which it's not personal favors. This man wanted to cover up his own crimes because they knew that if they went after Hunter Biden any further, that he would be dragged in, and he's like too old and too incompetent, according to Robert Hur's report. But anyway, to stand trial. It says hanging over it all is the wisdom of this decision to launch and then abandon a 2024 reelection bid. Harris's close aides are careful not to directly blame her loss on Biden's delay in dropping out of the race over the summer, but privately say that a few more weeks on the campaign trail could have made a difference in the outcome. I don't think it could have, because you saw all those different uh, groups, Hispanics, Black people. I mean, you saw all of them move towards Trump because Harris's policies were either non existent, confusing, or were bad for America. So there you go. It said Biden did some truly remarkable things while in office, like establishing a women's health research initiative, said Hannah Linkenhoker, a Los Angeles based Democratic donor advisor and chief engagement officer at law firm Johnson, Shapiro, Sluit, and Cole. But it's unfortunate that his legacy could be overshadowed by political miscalculations that ultimately ushered in a second Trump presidency. Yes, his screw up is our gain. Let's just put it in perspective. Um, as far as anybody that voted or would have voted for Biden, yeah, he made a lot of bad decisions in office. And like I said, anything that he did in the previous 50 years, 49 years, 50 years of office, these last 4 have been disastrous for America because he's the guy in office making these decisions, even if it's from an aide, like we talked about yesterday. Here it goes. It says the belief that Biden could have won isn't widely shared in the White House or among the Democratic establishment, where the more common view is that the party would have suffered a much larger electoral defeat and lost even more congressional seats had Biden remained the nominee. White House aides, many who've been on job searches since early November, described the work environment in recent weeks to words like draining and depressing. Well, I mean, when you back a losing horse, I guess that's kind of what happens. Andrew Bates, a White House spokesman, said the president and vice president are focused on delivering as many additional results for hardworking families as they can while finalizing the most groundbreaking record of any modern administration. Biden, he added, isn't spending his time relitigating the election or engaging in counterfactuals. whatever that means. Okay, said at Keanu's estate in the aftermath of the convention appearance, Biden griped about the delays that had abbreviated his DNC address and pushed him out of prime time. He watched the convention and held talks with Middle Eastern leaders about the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza. He spent time sunning, took dips in the ponds, and went to church. First Lady Jill Biden stopped by a local store to sign a copy of her book, Willow the White House Cat. Oh boy. Biden also reflected on his decision to drop out of the race. Seemed like a theme. Long term, he thought it was the best thing for the country for the Democrat Party not to splinter, added Keanu. By the time Biden returns to Washington, Harris was the Democratic nominee for president, and the president walked into the White House a lame duck. Life lessons and surprise visits. After being replaced on the Democratic ticket, Biden's appearances, public and private, took on a more rear-facing quality. He wandered more than usual into personal terrain, speaking to a group of social media influencers invited to the White House in August. Biden veered from talking points about the creator economy to old stories and a recitation of his administration's accomplishments. He repeated life lessons learned from his father and touted his career-long crusade against drug companies that charge an exorbitant amount of money. He quoted an unnamed friend, "You gotta know how to know, and part of the knowing how to know is knowing where to go." Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. I told y'all about the documentary that I watched with Biden, and it was on Frontline. I think it's called Biden's Decision, and it's pretty much talking about a lot of the stuff that he did during office. I mean, it's worth watching, and like I even commented on there, it's hard to have compassion and empathy for somebody that's made such poor decisions for the United States, you know. But anyway, let's see here. Duke Alexander Moore, a 30-year-old tax pro for content creators invited to the event, said he and other influencers shifted in their seats. Oh my gosh, this is kind of boring, Moore thought to himself. The speech lasted 15 minutes. When Biden was about to be escorted out of the room, Moore grabbed his phone and got the president's attention. "Do this with your hands," Moore told him, passing his own through his hair in a hip-hop move known as the Dougie. Whatever. Biden mimicked him with a smile while Moore filmed with his phone. He posted the video to his online profiles, and the engagement was titanic but divisive. He ended up losing 100,000 followers from it, including those who didn't like Biden or didn't want Moore to get political. Oh boy. Yeah. That's kind of funny. Anyway, in September, Hollywood executives from Disney, Netflix, and other companies were in town for a meeting with their lobbying group, the Motion Picture Association. They visited the White House for lunch with Biden's chief of staff, Jeff Zients, and what was expected to be a photo op with the president. They were surprised when instead the president dropped by the lunch and had the group visit the Oval Office for 45 minutes. He told stories, presented memorabilia, and showed the group the Rose Garden. Minion Moore, who chaired the Democratic National Convention, recently joined a small group for lunch with Biden in a room off the Oval Office. "We all just enjoyed sitting there talking with him," Moore said. "When you're not under the glare, you get to hear a lot of his stories," she added. "As age has set in on life, his wisdom kind of just shines through the conversations." I mean, a lot of times if you sit with an older person, they'll have some wisdom to share. But as far as the way that Joe Biden has run this country at this point in the last 4 years, has not shown a lot of wisdom. And I don't know if that's because He relied too much on the aides that we looked at that other article from the Wall Street Journal, or he was just not willing to listen to what the American people were saying. I'm sure a lot of this stuff was hidden from him, polling, whatever else, So he really was just kind of doing his own thing. The progressives were trying to take the country in a different way, and he wanted to kind of be hip and cool. Well, you can't do that when the American people aren't into it. But anyway, let's see. It talks about a complicated handoff. As the fall progressed, Biden was engaged in a delicate effort to rally voters without stepping on Harris's toes. Her team struggled to figure out how to involve the president. And even when he came out, there was a couple of times he made some missteps as far as our campaign. So here you go. 7 days before the election, Harris delivered a closing address to supporters that encouraged fewer divisions along party lines, only for Biden that evening to join a call with Latino activists and referred to Trump supporters as garbage. The president later said he was referring to just one Trump supporter, a comedian who had called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage during a Trump event at Madison Square Garden, but the damage was done. And the reason the comedian, I can't even think of his name now because it's been like a couple months, he was talking about the floating island of garbage being Puerto Rico, but it was because they were really having a garbage problem. It's an island. What do you do with garbage if it's not recycled? There's probably restrictions on burning some of this stuff. I mean, it's costly to do recycling stuff. I don't know. It was like an actual problem that that little island was experiencing, but people can't take a joke, and they took it way too far. Anyway, Harris's frustrated aides and advisors privately spoke about how they could keep Biden even further out of the picture in the remaining days before the election. One joked that Biden should take a vacation since he was already less central to the administration's operations. Wow, that's pretty bad. It says the post-election rapport among the Bidens and Harris and her husband Doug Emhoff in private settings has at times been frosty. People familiar with their relationship said the first lady hasn't been a fan of Harris's since the 2020 election, when she accused Biden in a debate of opposing busing policies that desegregated schools she attended as a young Black girl, say people who know both women. Bates denied any chill in the relationship and said Biden has stressed publicly and privately since the election that he has deep admiration for the campaign Harris ran. Kirsten Allen, a spokeswoman for Harris, said that Biden and Harris have a close working relationship and have developed a friendship that extends to both of their spouses. Stepping off the world stage. Shortly after the election, Biden embarked on a pair of foreign trips meant to cap his half-century involvement in world affairs. Yet the trips inadvertently highlighted how Biden at times struggles to keep up with the demands of the leader of the free world. During a 6-day visit to Peru and Brazil in November, which put him in rooms with leaders from about 30 countries, he made scant remarks about public sessions and answered just one question from a reporter, offering a response so soft that it was initially missed. Keeping a promise to visit Africa while in the White House, Biden in December became the first sitting U.S. president to touch down in Angola. In a meeting about a U.S. financed rail project aimed at countering China's influence on the continent, he closed his eyes for extended periods as other leaders spoke, once for roughly 50 seconds. As far as the videos I saw, he was looking like he was asleep, so whatever. Yeah, that's pretty disrespectful. I mean, thank goodness for America, he's going away, but also for himself. His family should just yank him back. Just go on. Let him live out the rest of his days. Because, yeah, he's too old and too infirm to be president. It says during a welcome ceremony outside the presidential palace in Luanda, I guess that's how you pronounce it, Biden appeared lost and unsteady, and Angola president, is it João, I don't know, Lourenco, 70 years old, physically guided him as they walked together. Biden didn't tour Luanda's National Slavery Museum, which is perched atop a set of steep steps, and instead waited outside where artifacts from the collection were brought to him. Are you serious? Oh my goodness. To many diplomats, Biden's departure from the world stage marks the end of a post-war era in which most U.S. presidents assumed broad responsibility for enforcing a rules-based world order to a more transactional approach. He has to be wishing he was going out on a different set of terms, said Peter Harrell, who worked on Biden's National Security Council and National Economic Council during the first 2 years of his term. Unexpected pardon. In December, Biden surprised many Democrats and even members of his own legal team when he announced Hunter Biden's pardon. Biden had earlier pledged not to make such a move, and if you remember, he said, "I will not pardon my son." But in the end, he argued that his son had been unfairly prosecuted by his own Justice Department because of his last name. Really? I know another last name that was unfairly prosecuted by the Justice Department, but, he's going to be back in the office. So, anyway, Trump. The pardon angered supporters who viewed it as a self-serving waste of political capital. Democrat Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, a Biden supporter, rebuked the decision, writing on X that it put personal interest ahead of duty and that it further erodes Americans' faith that the justice system is fair and equal for all. The anger, say some Biden confidants, fails to account for the emotional vice that Hunter's addiction problems have had on his father. The Biden family is fearful that Hunter could relapse, and some believed Hunter's 3 convictions of felony gun offenses in June accelerated the president's decline. Hunter was convicted on June 11th, shortly before the president's poor debate performance. Hey, but if Hunter had to spend any time in jail for these offenses, which most of the rest of us would, that might keep him off the street and keep him from doing drugs. I mean, just a thought, but yeah, whatever. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with those people. I don't care. It says Hunter's well-being has taken on a more central role for the Biden family since the 2015. The president's other son, Beau Biden, whose passing was one reason his father didn't enter the 2016 presidential race. That decision still stings since Biden believes he could have had a better shot at beating Trump than Clinton. The pressure to drop out of the 2024 race only to see another Democrat lose has been an unwelcome sequel for the president, supporters say. Soon after Trump's victory last month, Biden traveled to Claymont, Delaware, a small town where he had lived as a boy, to attend a Veterans Day ceremony at a local memorial that recently erected a plaque for Beau, funded by an anonymous donor. The organizers moved the ceremony from 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. to accommodate Biden's schedule. As you remember in the article yesterday, that's what they were doing, moving meetings around to accommodate him. The president expressed a lot of somber, silent emotion, looking at the plaque, said Donald Van Alstine, a former Army chaplain who helped organize the event. He was deeply, deeply emotionally moved. He added, as far as I'm concerned, he was reflecting his soul. I mean, I can't I can't imagine burying a child. I mean, obviously I've buried a parent. My mother passed away in 2009, but there's something a little different about burying a child because you're looking at the next generation and they're not going to be there. So I understand the emotion. I get that. But it's just the the decisions that he's made, man, they have not been good for the United States. I mean, or the world for that matter. I mean, some things you just gotta just do better. That's all I mean. Like, this is ridiculous. But like I said, I'm glad he's not going to be in there. So, anyway, this last portion says a question of legacy. When Trump takes the oath of office for the second time on January 20th, it will end a political career for Biden that began when he won a seat on the Newcastle County Council in 1970 at age 27. From the start of his presidency, there have been indications that he had been interested in defining his place in history. He regularly talks with presidential historian John Meacham, whom he asked to help his brother James choose art to display in the Oval Office before he moved in back in 2021. Meacham opted not to hang a portrait of George Washington over the room's fireplace, as previous presidents had done. He instead placed a portrait of Franklin Roosevelt there, telling Biden it was because he and Roosevelt both took office at a time of historic challenges. Meacham added a portrait of Abraham Lincoln because the nation in 2021 was more divided than it had been since the Civil War, he told the president. Now, however, the crash landing of his campaign and presidency threatens Biden's climactic exercise in legacy shaping. His planned presidential library. Discussions are underway for a library that would likely be located in Delaware and requires hundreds of millions of dollars. A number of large donors and donor advisors, however, said the president's final year in office has soured their support for the effort, citing his decision to run for re-election and then his delay in dropping out after the debate. Others say they aren't over the Hunter pardon. Many of the small circle of advisors who have stayed close with Biden due to the turmoil of these last several months are expected to remain with him. Few of his associates have any sense of what the president will do next, but his friend Kiani said his goal is clear. He really wants to use whatever time he has to help make things better. Oh boy. And Vera, whatever, Bergengruen, and then Emily Glazer, and then I guess Annie Linsky or the title or the authors. Let's see what the conversations are. Let's see. Included President Biden's legacy is old MAGAs who can't cut the mustard, the ability to retire with big fat retirement funds in the stock market. Compare that to 2008 and Trump's 2020 stock market crashes. His legacy will be the worst and corrupt, senile president ever, and the country cannot wait for this guy to depart. True. Biden's legacy: weak, feckless, corrupt, dementia, senility, botched Afghanistan withdrawal, inflation, confusion, $1 trillion deficits, lawfare against political opponents, appeasement, anti-Israel, pro-Iran. Could Biden have beaten Trump? See above. Don't think so. Oh, shoot. I meant to just like that. One would expect this article from the New York Times. Biden has not been running the country for the last years. Look at yesterday. It took them 12 hours to get him lucid enough to just read from a teleprompter, and then he took no questions. This article should be how we can find out who has been running the country in Biden's name. Was it the staff or was it Obama living blocks away instructing the staff? That's the legacy we need to find out. True, because even Obama said he would like to basically be in a basement somewhere in his pajamas or sweats and have an earpiece. And I said this yesterday, so this isn't something new. He said that during an interview. And I'm sure if you go on X, you can find stuff like that. Biden kept Trump's hopes alive for 3 years by ignoring the southern border and giving Trump the issue that defined the campaign, but is largely responsible for Trump's victory over Harris. Yeah. It says it wasn't just ignoring the border, it was willfully allowing 10 million migrants to walk in and fly in. It was willfully taking $150 or $50 billion a year to fund the effort and support them all. All of this needs to be investigated. If they would use punctuation, I wouldn't run over the sentences. Whoa. Could Biden ever beat Trump in 2024? The only thing you need to know is the enthusiasm which greeted Kamala Harris within the Democratic Party upon Biden's withdrawal. If Biden had not withdrawn, those Democrats would have stayed home and Trump would have won in a landslide. I mean, it was all manufactured as far as the enthusiasm for her. I mean, she was not good. It says the only thing people Joe Biden has served is himself and his family, a corrupt influence peddler who makes the mafia seem normal. That's another thing. Read a book called Mafia Democracy by Michael Francis. It will really open your eyes to what the government is doing and how these people go from $100-something thousand a year or $200,000 a year to millionaires. Besides all the insider trading, which we know that's a fact. Anyway, it said Biden could have won in 2024. Why not? He won in 2020 with the help of numerous dirty tricks. Who knows what dirty tricks might have been tried in 2024 if he were the one running. True. Anyway, I got some stuff I've got to take care of this afternoon. I had a drunk driver actually hit me the other day, so I got to go get my car worked on and get a rental and all this other stuff. But I just wanted to share this article because I saw it yesterday when I saw the other one. And I was like, oh my goodness, they're still trying to kind of. Well, actually, now they're really telling on him. They're tattling and spilling the goods because he's not going to be president and there's no reason to save his skin anymore. But yeah, y'all have a great afternoon. I hope y'all's new year is going or is off to a good start. I'm trying to get some stuff going here. I'm finding all these articles and I want to read because I like the fact that they're turning on each other. Then that way maybe they'll stop focusing on MAGA. But anyway, I'm not necessarily MAGA. I just like common sense and I like putting America first. Whatever. Make America great again is great as long as they're not too far right. Just like I don't like the too far to the left. I don't really like some of the moderate stuff because then they could float either way, kind of floating in the gray area. I don't know. I'm kind of like in the middle, in the right, in between the two. Anyway, whatever. But y'all have a great afternoon. I'm going to stop sharing this here. I will see y'all around and y'all be safe. Like, share, and subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.